Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Virtual College Exploration, sponsored by the Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling. My name is Paul Welsh. I'm a school counselor, but your panelists are with us. Before I introduce them, I want to remind you, how do you ask a question? You can use the Q&A button to type your questions to the presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off. We cannot see you or hear you, so you should communicate with the presenters with the Q&A function. Please sign up for more sessions. There are almost 400 sessions for you to choose from. Go to the website, www.iacac.org, and recordings of this and all sessions will be available. With that, I would like to turn it over to the presenters in breaking down the college admission process with college and university, with CUB, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues right now.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, and hello everyone, and welcome. We are CUB, College and University Breakthrough, and we are so excited to be able to connect with you today, and thank you for taking the time to attend our panel and add another Zoom session to your schedules. Our session today will cover the meaning of fit in your college search, understanding financial aid and the admissions process during COVID-19 as well. We'll also leave time at the end for questions. Just for a little background on who we are, College and University Breakthrough was formed by our respective deans and vice presidents of admission and enrollment, and they all know and respect each other really well and saw the value in collaborating to form an outreach and access partnership. So the CUB schools, Bowdoin College, Colorado College, Princeton University, and Washington University in St. Louis all share similar qualities and characteristics, including a commitment to access, inclusion, and diversity. Affordability, each of our institutions meets the full demonstrated need of an applicant, having talented and diverse students as well as faculty and staff, providing incredible, rigorous academic programs and opportunities in and out of the classroom. And we also all use the Common Application, Coalition Application, and we are QuestBridge partners. We're selective in our holistic admissions process, and even our mascots are similar. 2 of us have tigers and the other 2 have bears. So with our background and shared strengths covered, we'll go ahead and start with some introductions and then get right into our panel so that we can reserve as much time as possible for any questions that might come up. I'll just start right off with my intro and say hello again. My name is Bryce Irvin. I use the pronouns he, him, his, and I'm a Senior Assistant Dean of Admissions with Bowdoin College.
Hi everyone, my name's Allie Springer. I use the pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm an Associate Director of Admission at Colorado College.
Hi everyone, my name is Veronica Salazar. I'm a Senior Assistant Dean of Admission at Princeton University, and I use the pronouns she, her, hers.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elena Wanzlak. I'm a Senior Assistant Director at Washington University in St. Louis, and I go by she, her, hers.
Awesome, and with that, we'll jump right into the meaning of fit. What is fit? You might hear us talk about it a lot, or your counselors or your parents. And fit is a pretty big beast here to take on, but it's multidimensional. It includes academic, personal, and financial fit. And for academics, this could be finding and identifying colleges and universities that either provide specific academic programs you're looking for, and or a combination of curricular structure that will support academic exploration as you navigate what your interests are and how those change during your time in college. For a personal fit, this could mean finding communities that you can see yourself being a part of, and clubs and organizations and a social life that align with your interests and drive. Financial fit is finding a college or university in an aid package that can provide the financial support needed to attend and graduate with minimal or a manageable debt burden. Academic, personal, and financial fit are huge categories, and it takes some work and research on your end to consider all of the elements of fit and their importance to you. As you begin to discern fit, remember that colleges and universities are more than just their rankings, and that it's not always about outcomes. Connecting with us and using the resources you can at your disposal are great ways to start exploring whether or not a college might be the right fit to you. Sometimes fit might come down to a gut feeling. You can hear that a lot from people. but it's good to know that other times it might not, and that is completely normal. This is your process, and you are the only one who can decide if a particular place or set of places feel like a good fit to you. But we are here to help, and a great place to start is to join mailing lists, explore our websites, and see what virtual options are available to tour colleges and universities, to connect with students, attend virtual information sessions, and see if colleges might offer interviews as well. These are all great methods to see if you might be comfortable and happy at the college that you're exploring. Fit is also something we look for in the admissions process. So all of the CUB schools use a holistic admissions process. And this means we work hard to get to know you as well as we can through your application, recognizing that the application can only tell us so much about you. We know you're a real person with depth and complexity, interests and drives, so we try really hard to honor that. Our dedicated admission committees and readers get to know you from all available angles and use the context of your high school, your environment, your community, and all the materials you submitted to develop the best possible understanding of who you are and your potential. This includes your high school transcripts through your senior year, your grades, your curriculum, sometimes your testing, in addition to how you spend your time outside of the classroom, whether that might be sports or clubs, activities, family responsibilities and obligations, different ways you connect into your communities, and that can include part-time and full-time jobs. Your recommenders also advocate for you and bring insight into who you are in the classroom and in your high school community. And your essays bring your voice to the application, speaking to your interests, drives, and talents. All of these pieces really do come together to help create the best well-rounded picture that we can have available of you. And that's really important in our process, where we're looking for fit as we strive to build talented and diverse classes who will join our college community and really thrive in the spaces that we've worked so hard to cultivate. I'll pass it off now for financial aid.
Thanks, Bryce. So again, my name is Veronica Salazar. I'm a Senior Assistant Dean of Admission at Princeton University. So let's talk about understanding financial aid in our first slide and our commitment to access and affordability. And all of our institutions are committed to financial aid and diversity on each of our campuses. We do see financial aid as a partnership between your family and our institutions in order to make attending one of our schools a realistic option. And each of our schools are either need blind or need aware or need sensitive in our admission review. Therefore, how we review or make decisions on applications can vary depending on the school. So this means that some schools may consider finances in their admission decisions for their applicants. In terms of online resources, there are many. So to get a snapshot estimate of financial aid that you may qualify for, be sure to use either the net price calculator, a tool called like My Intuition, or the online estimator tool. These online tools are always and all available on each of our college's financial aid websites. Also remember that financial aid policies are different for every college and can change based on each student's financial aid eligibility. So therefore, these online estimators or net price calculators can give you a good estimate on your financial aid if they are filled out accurately and completely. It's also important to begin understanding the different types of financial aid programs for the schools that you might be interested in applying. And while all of us have that commitment to access and affordability, we each have varying financial aid policies and financial aid requirements. So when possible, begin your research as early as you can. Also contact our financial aid offices if you have any questions about our financial aid policies, what they mean, or if you have specific questions about your and your family's individual circumstances. Our colleagues in our financial aid offices are there to help and support you through the process. And then in terms of financial aid applications and deadlines, you'll need to apply for financial aid by filling out the school's required financial aid application. This could either be the CSS profile or the FAFSA or even our own institutional financial aid application, but most definitely a combination of those three types of applications. Financial aid application fee waivers are available from each of our schools, and fee waivers remove the cost of submitting that financial aid application. If you're unsure how to access a fee waiver, be sure to contact our financial aid offices and they can provide more information on that. And beyond the applications, keep in mind that, again, our institutions have different requirements to be considered for financial aid. So make sure that you meet the posted deadlines, and all of these deadlines and dates, applications, contact information are all found on each of our schools' websites. So now let's move on to the next slide and talk about the different types of financial aid awards. The first one are need-based aid awards. And this is financial aid that's awarded on the basis of the financial need of your family. Eligibility factors may vary by institution, but they may include a parent's income, their assets, the household size, the number of children in college, and sometimes the residency status. Generally, these factors, factors such as test scores or athletic ability have no bearing on need-based aid. And need-based aid can come in the form of scholarships or grants, loans, as well as student work study. And the amount of need-based aid that a student may qualify for can vary by school. So some schools may meet that full need while others meet a percentage of your financial need, but all of our schools here do meet that full need. The second type of award are merit scholarships. And these are awarded based on your GPA, curriculum, standardized test scores, or other academic achievements. Merit scholarships generally do not take your family's financial factors into consideration, and merit awards and scholarships are often very limited or may not even be available at more selective schools. And then the last type of financial aid I want to cover are athletic scholarships. And these are awarded based on a student's ability to play a sport. And usually the admission office will work with the institution's coaches, and they'll work together to identify these student athletes. So I'll pause right there and send it over to my colleague Elena, who will continue our presentation.
Yes, hello everybody. Once again, my name is Elena. I'm a Senior Assistant Director at WashU. And we want to also provide some information on perspective during the admissions process and applying during COVID-19. We know that this is a really challenging and unusual time for students. So hopefully we can provide some information and tips on how to approach this time, and hopefully just remind you that we are here to support you and guide you in any way that we can. As a reminder of where we are right now in the world, we are going through a global pandemic. That means that people have been impacted in many different ways and will continue to be impacted in many different ways. I think one thing to remember is that we are all in this together, that everybody has been impacted differently. But when it comes down to it, everyone, including our students, but also our colleges, our current students and faculty and staff, are all working together to support each other, to work with each other, to make sure that we are understanding your specific background experience and how you'll continue to add to our campuses. We also know that testing and transcripts and your activities, which are a lot of the things that we have historically considered in the admissions process, will look very different for applicants this year. We know that many schools went pass-fail for their grading in the spring, or provide that as an option to students, or change their grading or curriculums altogether. And even if your school didn't change their grading policy, we know that this spring was especially challenging for students, managing a transition to online or virtual school, or just managing the pandemic as a whole. And so we know that students' transcripts may look different than they would have in a different time. One thing that is nice about the application process is that your school, when you apply, fills out a school report that helps us understand your background at your school. So in particular, what your school offers in terms of classes and grades and GPAs and everything like that. And that remains the same. We've added a space for counselors to talk about how their school may have been impacted by the pandemic. So know that remains the same, that we'll learn about your high school and your experience in this application process. We also know that standardized testing has been significantly impacted by the pandemic. Students have not been able to take tests in the same way or at all. And so schools have really worked to work with students to change policies to allow students to apply their test optional or test flexible, or still complete applications without testing, and give students a fair review. So each school has different policies when it comes to standardized testing, so the ACT or the SAT this year. And it's important to talk to each individual school or go to their websites and see what their policies are. But know that many, many schools have changed their policies in order to be more flexible with students, as we know that testing has been very limited this year. We also know that your activities look different. It's hard to have a volleyball team when you have to be so far apart, right? And so teams and clubs and sports and everything like that, jobs and volunteering have changed. And it's possible that you had something set up for the summer that no longer happened. That is okay. We know that. We understand it happened on our campuses as well. These things that our students love to do no longer were able to happen in the same way. And so when it comes to activities and what you should talk about in your application, it's things that either you did before that you still love, or ways that you stayed busy or took care of yourself or your family during this process. We don't expect that every applicant has found the cure for COVID. If you have, let us know. We'd love to know about it. But most students during this time really took time to think, take care of themselves, take care of their family. Maybe you watched some Netflix, maybe you took some naps. Whatever it is, we're here to understand your activities, understand your hobbies, your clubs, what you did do over the summer right now. But we understand that everything is going to look a little bit different. Just like Bryce was talking about, the holistic review process is contextual, which means we get to take all of these things into account when reviewing applications. That has always been the case, and that remains the case, that each and every student in our process is different. And our holistic review process allows us to get a full picture view through all of the parts of the application. There have been new policies at schools. I mentioned the test optional, test flexible policies, but definitely ask schools about some other policies they may have changed in order to better address where students are. So some schools may have added an additional letter of recommendation or added an additional supplemental question or taken away some of those things in order to help students through this process. So just make sure that you're also aware of any new or changing policies at schools. And finally, before I pass it over to my colleague, Allie, reminder that we are always here to help and support you if you have questions or concerns about applying to our universities or applying to university in general. Please know that our offices serve as resources for our students on campus and in the process. And whether or not you end up on our campus, we are here to help you throughout this process. With that, I'll pass it over to Allie at Colorado College.
Hi, all. Thank you again for being here. I am happy to share this presentation with my colleagues to hopefully put you at ease a little bit. And I think one of those things is definitely focusing in and narrowing down on what's in your control and trying not to stress so much about what is out of your control, because as Elena mentioned, there are a lot of changes and there are a lot of things that are out of all of our controls right now. So what can you do? This slide is to focus a little bit more on narrowing that down. So once again, I'm Allie from Colorado College. First and foremost, tell your story. Your application is your application. I would highly recommend that you definitely take a little bit of time to get to know the different sections of the application and maybe what you're going to share in those sections. So there's many different pieces to the application and many different sections that you can fill in, some that are required and some that are going to be optional. So when you focus on telling your story, it's good to actually know that the applications this year will have a specific section to sharing anything about maybe how COVID-19 has impacted you or your family or your school. However, as we've mentioned previously in the application, your school and your counselor are going to be sharing a lot of that information as how it impacted your academic program or your school curriculum being offered or your learning. And so just know that your school is going to take care of some of that for you. And you can always utilize your school or guidance counselor if you have questions about what the school is sharing and how you can utilize that section. But that specific section is really to talk a little bit potentially about how it's impacted you. You're welcome to share that information if you feel comfortable, but know that that is going to be an optional section for you. In addition, there's also an additional information section, and students utilize this in many different ways. And so once again, you do have a couple of different optional sections to share a little bit more And that's going to be beyond, of course, your personal statement or kind of your main college essay, where we want to hear your story and we want to hear your voice. So share something that's personal to you that will allow the reader to get to know you on a little bit of a deeper level and provide some insight into who you are. And so it's really important to kind of think through those different sections and how you'll utilize them, I think, ahead of time. The next thing is that one of the great things actually that has impacted our offices on the admission side and how you can, I guess, take advantage of that would be that colleges and universities are of course are expanding like we are right now on this webinar, our virtual offerings. And this means that you have a lot of opportunity, definitely more so than applicants last year in terms of learning from the comfort of your home, the comfort and the safety of your home. And so know that there are so many different ways and so many options for you to learn about different schools. You have access to more information than any applicant pool has before you, which is actually kind of exciting. So definitely thinking about that in a positive way. And there are things such as recorded sessions or videos. There are also ways to sign up for virtual opportunities or do research on the college's websites. So know that all of these things are available to you. And I encourage you after, as you know, Bryce had spoke on finding your fit and narrowing down your list a little bit. Once that is narrowed down a little bit and you feel like you have these colleges that you're really excited to explore, sign up for what you think you're excited to learn more about. There are a lot of ways to do that. However, we know that Zoom fatigue is real. We feel it too. We're staring at a computer screen more probably than we ever have as well. And so this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sign up for every single opportunity or every single virtual session that a school offers, even if it's your first choice. So simply know that it's there for you. You have access to it. We'd like you to utilize it, but also know when you can press pause and take a break and don't feel like you have to work yourself too hard on Zoom or on the computer, because we know that your studies are oftentimes remote and on the computer these days as well. And so definitely make sure that you're taking a break from all of that too. You know, definitely do research, see if the schools that you're really excited about, maybe if they offer virtual interviews or virtual casual conversations with students. They may also have opportunities for you to engage with faculty in some way. So that could be through a video or watching a mock class. It could be through an open house program that's virtual where you get to see a faculty panel. So once again, know that you don't just have to talk to us admission officers. You can also make sure that you're reaching out and getting a sense of the college or the university through a student or a faculty member as well. And so finally, I will end with something that Elena also mentioned and that we will also mention is ask questions. And actually, as I sort of wrap up here, I would encourage you all to put a question into the Q&A, because we are going to have plenty of time to answer any questions that you all have. So get thinking about that. Feel free to start typing that out. But I will just end with remembering too that it's okay to ask questions about what normal life, and when I say normal, I mean pre-COVID-19, potentially, you know, as you think ahead to what college may be like for you in a couple of years, or even when you're approaching graduation from that college, what might life look like for you on that campus? And so it's okay to ask those questions about what it's like. We're all, of course, hopeful that there will be a little bit more of a sense of normalcy here as soon as we're able to do that safely for our communities. And definitely ask questions about how colleges and universities are supporting students through this time also. Through COVID-19, what things look like now. It's okay to ask questions about many different pieces of life, either on campus or maybe how that school is dealing with things now, and what life maybe looks like on campus or virtually for those programs and those colleges as well. Once again, no question is necessarily off limits, and we want you to ask as many questions as you need to, hopefully to put you at ease, gather as much information as you need. And we're here for you. That is why we do what we do. admission officers, our job is to answer questions. And so we'd like you to take advantage of us and advantage of our colleagues, whether that's financial aid colleagues on our campus, whether that's current students that work for our office, or faculty members that we think are better suited to answer your question. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Elena, perhaps, and we're going to move, I think, into Q&A. So once again, we encourage you to submit questions into the Q&A function if you're able to. Thank you.
Yes, I repeat all of that. We are now moving into Q&A. We have up here all of our university's general emails. So if you have questions that are more specific to our universities in particular, we encourage you to reach out to each of our offices to ask more questions. And we have about 20 minutes now to cover things about anything we've talked about today, the admissions process, scholarships, everything like that. And we will do our best to answer as many as possible. But again, use that Q&A feature and we'll get to as many as we can. Our first question is about scholarships for undocumented students. So I figure we should all take this one. And if our school has scholarships for undocumented students, I'm happy to start. For WashU, our financial aid covers 100% demonstrated need for all students, regardless of citizenship status. So documented, undocumented, U.S. citizen, non-U.S. citizen would meet that 100% demonstrated need. Veronica, what about?
Yep. Same, Elena. Princeton meets 100% of demonstrated need, and we review financial aid applications the same for all students, regardless of citizenship status. So there isn't a separate application or anything different when it comes to different types of citizenship status for students.
Yeah, I'll echo both Veronica and Elena here. We don't have any sort of separate application or any hoops to jump through if you are DACA or undocumented. It's all the same process. And as with our 4 schools, we all meet that full demonstrated need of students regardless of citizenship. So that's good to know. And if you do have deeper questions on the nuances of your particular situation, that's a great opportunity to reach out directly to our aid offices and make a connection. And they're happy to work with you before you even have an application going to help give you the best sense of what that might look like for you and your family.
Same for Colorado College. We meet 100% of a family's demonstrated need, regardless of citizenship. So DACA or undocumented students should apply via the CSS profile, supporting documentation, and if admitted to Colorado College, would receive 100% of what that family needs in order to attend, just like all of our students. So yes, same here.
One of the questions is about how accurate net price calculator estimates are. Veronica, I know you talked about financial aid. If you want to cover this one, the student is interested in potentially applying early decision. And so wondering about that process.
Sure. It's just every net price calculator, every estimator is going to be different. Every institution in the US has them. It's actually required by federal law that every school has them. But each version is going to be a little bit different. And I think Bryce, Bowdoin, you use My Intuition, which is one form. I don't know if anyone else here uses My Intuition. At Princeton, we don't. We have our own estimator tool, but they will give you an estimate. That's what they are. And each college, each university has different financial aid policies. So each estimator is going to vary depending on the types of questions that are asked. But it'll give you an estimate. It'll give you a good sense of what you can expect in terms of financial aid. Also, be aware that at most schools, the information that you put into the estimators aren't stored. They're not kept. No one else sees them. They're very confidential. So please feel free to use them without any hesitation, but also be sure to use them completely and as accurately as you can.
Great, thanks. Bryce, I wonder if you can take this one. How do you know which college is the best fit for you if you're unsure of the career path you want to go into?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I'd answer it in that all of our colleges, the undergraduate colleges you'd be joining at our college or university, are liberal arts in nature. So if you have an idea of a career path you're interested in, you will be well prepared to go into that field, regardless of which school you end up attending. There could be specific academic programs, or there could be ways our curriculums are structured with what you're asked to take, either for core curriculum or different ways in which individual colleges might have certain requirements for students. And those, I think, fit well into an academic fit sort of piece for students. At Bowdoin, I know that 2/3 of our students changed their minds from what majors they were thinking about when they applied versus when they actually declare those majors. That is totally normal. You do not have to have your life figured out prior to going to college. There are a lot of supports and a lot of resources at all of our institutions to help students navigate classes and curriculums and finding courses that could be really of interest to you, whether or not you've had exposure in that area over your first couple years, or however much time is given in between starting and declaring your major. And all those systems are tied into our career services offices as well. So they rigorously advise students on professional interests and how academics might align with that, and opportunities for internships over the summer or during the school year. So rest assured, you would be well served, not necessarily knowing where you might want to go professionally still by all of our schools. So the academic fit piece and fit broadly is more around the institution in terms of the social life, the academics, as far as any sort of requirements, and the financial factors too.
Awesome. We have a question about GPA and how we look at GPA when high schools have different grade ranges and everything like that. Allie, I don't know if you want to take this one.
Happy to. I love this question. So you're going to hear this a lot. All colleges have their application review process a little bit differently in terms of evaluation. I know that we spoke a little bit about holistic review process. So that factors in a little bit, just in that all of our colleges aren't necessarily looking for a minimum GPA or one number that they're focused on, but we're looking at the big picture. And I think GPA, grades, your transcript as a whole is part of that process. And so I guess to speak a little bit just specifically with CC and our process, we don't have a minimum GPA, but of course we are a competitive and highly selective institution, as my colleagues I think would echo here. So we're looking for students that have focused on their academics and performed well in high school, but there's no minimum GPA. The way that we do it is that we're looking more so in the grades that you've earned, the scale that your school provides us. So how they, if it's a 0 to 100 scale, we'll look at that. If it's an A through F scale, we'll look at that. If your school doesn't have grades and they do a narrative transcript, we will look at that. And so we really do look at you within the context of your high school and how your high school has evaluated your performance. And I would say for CC specifically, we're really honing in on your grades and your performance in your academic core subject classes. So your main subjects that you can think of, not necessarily including your electives, anything like that. But and so it really kind of depends. I would say, yeah, we don't even publish on Colorado College's publications or website. We don't even publish like an average GPA or anything like that, because I think that it's difficult to discern when all high schools in the country, have a little bit different in how they calculate maybe your cumulative GPA. Some schools are on a 5.0 scale, some are on a 4.0 scale. Some of you are taking weighted classes, unweighted classes. So I think for us, we're really looking at that big picture and utilizing our holistic review mindset, even when we're looking, let's say, at a GPA. So for CC, we will glance at the GPA that the high school, but we are more so kind of honing in on the grades that were earned in your academic core subjects. But I would also allow my colleagues to jump in if your process is much different than that too.
Perfect. That's the same for all of us. We have a couple of questions about more of the athletic scholarship process and recruitment. I think Veronica, perhaps, I could be wrong. Are you the only D1 school?
Princeton is Division I, but we don't offer athletic scholarships. So, it goes back to, and this touches on what all of us have said, every school's policies are different. So whether it's our financial aid policies, whether it's our how we review applications, everything is going to be different. So it's really important to connect with either our colleagues in our financial aid offices or with us, with each of our offices. We shared with you the slide right now, has our contact information for each of our admission offices. So ask us these questions in terms of athletics, because that's important distinction among all the schools that you might be considering and who offers athletic scholarships, what division each school is in, and how they compare.
And Elena, I'm happy to hop in as well, because Colorado College, we do actually have 2 Division I programs that we do offer athletic scholarships for. The rest of our varsity sports, which is the majority of them, are Division III. So we're a little unique in offering two totally different divisions. And I guess I'll just say that, I think I saw another question that I'll speak to right now as well, which is, what do I do if I'm interested in playing a sport at a college? Once again, totally depends on Division III, Division II, Division I. But I highly recommend, no matter what you're interested in or maybe what your level that you would like to play in, that you should reach out and talk to the coach. I think that's first and foremost how most of our offices would go, that you should reach out, talk to that program. There's often a head coach, an assistant coach, and someone can start that process with you and start that conversation. A lot of websites also will have like a contact form for athletics or coaches that you can submit. And I think you should just kind of look on their website and start there. Division III sports or athletics do not offer scholarships. For us, we have 2 D1, so they do. And so it's a little bit different also for each division and each sport. But definitely the coach, I think, is the first point of contact. You can always ask your admission officer at that specific college too, if you're not sure.
Great, thanks. Bryce, maybe you can talk about what makes a liberal arts college different from other colleges or universities.
Certainly, yeah. So liberal arts colleges specifically emphasize a breadth of study across multiple subjects while allowing for depth within several. And that depth usually comes in the form of majors and minors. So if you're looking at a liberal arts college, chances are it could have 40, 50 or more academic departments that cover huge different areas, from the sciences, the natural sciences, to the humanities, to foreign languages, anything that kind of might be under the sun of what you think of when you think of academics broadly exist at these institutions. And the breadth piece comes from typically at liberal arts colleges, a core curriculum that will encourage students to take classes across a variety of these departments. And then the depth, again, comes from your major and minor, which will be typically within 1 or 2 of these departments. And you'll have to take a certain amount of courses within that department to actually be a major. So you'll have a focused depth of study in a particular field. Other colleges and universities that are not explicitly liberal arts might be more vocational in background and will provide a specialized program of study in a very particular area, typically to prepare students for a certain type of job in a certain field. So it's a bit more specialized. Liberal arts kind of provides a very robust set of tools and experiences and skills that you can utilize really in any career path after graduating from that college or university. You'll see that liberal arts students, if you look through any flyers we have online or outcomes where alumni end up and what types of companies and organizations and nonprofits and places they end up, they are all over the world and in every sort of industry. So there's a flexibility to a liberal arts education that can really empower you to pursue whatever it is you're interested in, even if you don't know what that is yet.
Thanks. A couple questions more about just the holistic review process. Again, a question about just like what are the factors in kind of holistic review, but also how can you kind of showcase either your specific passions or interests, and kind of what you're interested in. I guess those are kind of two questions, but I wonder if somebody wants to kind of just cover again briefly just the different parts of the application and perhaps how students can either focus in on something, or as we like to think, be kind of those all over well-rounded students. Is anyone interested in taking it? I'm happy to take it. I'll keep talking. So a holistic review really means that we're looking at a lot of different things, right? Like Bryce was talking about earlier, it includes your academic preparation. So your transcript, your courses, grades, everything like that. It may include standardized testing, depending on the college. But it also includes the qualitative pieces of you. So your letters of recommendation, extracurriculars and activities, and any essays that are required by the school. Those are kind of the pieces of the application that all factor into holistic review. And that really just means that we are considering all of these things in context. So looking at you and what's been offered to you in your school, in your community, in your state, your country, wherever. And so we're able to really look at students within context. And in terms of how you can kind of showcase your specific spike or passions or interests, it really depends on you, the student. If you're somebody that's more well-rounded, so you like to do a lot of different things and that's who you are, then be that student. If you're somebody that's very kind of focused, or as we call in our office, pointy student, so you love music, you want to study music, everything you do is music, then be that student as well. You know, then your activities would speak to that. You might write about that in an essay, or you can be somebody that has different ideas and passions. So not one type of student that colleges are looking for, but more just trying to understand you as an individual, how you're going to fit into our kind of larger classes. So hopefully that helps with both kind of holistic review and parts of the application as well. And here's a question. Is it better to maintain good grades throughout high school or have a rising trend in grades? I think a question that I also get sometimes is it better to have kind of all A's in, you know, good classes or a mix of grades in the most challenging courses? So kind of a, you know, question about grades. Allie, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I would, I would encourage students to definitely take advantage of resources at their high school, speaking with counselors and teachers about what courses they might want or should take in the following year. And I guess I would say I would err on the side of a student challenging themselves in a subject that maybe they're excited about, and maybe perhaps getting a little bit of a lower grade rather than maybe taking the regular in that particular subject. But if it makes sense to have a mix of rigor in different subjects, I think that's fine. I think most of our schools, we would say, have some rigor in your schedule, take some challenging coursework that'll make you more competitive for admission, but also prepare you for the rigor of college work, I think at least our institutions. But speaking in general, a rising grade trend is good, but I would say don't shy away from those tough or rigorous classes because you're worried about getting, a little bit of a lower grade. But it's also okay to have that mix as well. I hope that answers the question. I think that's what I would say.
Yes, I tried to combine many questions, so I appreciate it. And then finally, just as we head to the end, somebody wants to know if our schools were offering on-campus visits or programs right now, or virtual programs, and if so, how people can find those sorts of programs. I'll start by saying our websites are great resources for what is going on campus. If you go to any of our university websites and admissions offices, I imagine all of us right now are doing primarily virtual programming. I don't know if anybody is doing on-campus visits. No, I didn't think so right now. So the best way to learn about our colleges is to communicate with us through campus tours, virtually, through virtual info sessions, emails, all of that sort of stuff. And once again, if you want to reach out to any of us, reach out to our admissions offices and we are happy to help answer questions, be a resource, everything like that. A lot of you had great questions, but they were about individual schools. So just make sure that you're reaching out with those same questions, asking about tuition and fees and everything like that, and deadlines, because they are different for every one of us. All right, thanks everybody. Hopefully you learned a little bit, and we hope you have a good day.
A big thank you to our presenters, and right now, can everyone at home send them some virtual like applause, because we don't get the feedback when we work with students. So they did a great job giving all this information to you, our Illinois students, and our parents, our families. So thank you very much to our presenters. To all of our participants who joined us, thank you very much. Stick around for a moment. There will be a quick survey. Please take a few moments to do that for us. Sign up for some more sessions, and a recording of this session and all sessions will be available at the website, IACAC.org. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.